Do you really have to be the face of your brand? In today's world, it seems like the most popular, successful brands are those with faces. They're either the face of a super popular celebrity, or maybe it's a top-notch influencer who you know and love, which is leaving you wondering, do I have to be the face of my brand? Because quite frankly, I'm not a celebrity and I'm not a top influencer per se, or maybe I just don't want to be the face of my brand. I want to talk about that today because I know that that's something that is on top of the mind of a lot of my hustle babes. You are thinking right now and stressing out, how in the world can you grow this brand? How can you create a successful business if you really just aren't good on camera? And I get it. So let's talk about it. Now, if you're new here, hey, I'm Chanel the Brand Hustler, and welcome back to another video on my channel. This setup is a little bit different. I'm usually recording in my office, but today I decided to take things to my living room to have some real talk with y'all. Now, I did a version of this before. One of the times I did this was with my oversaturation video, where we had a real talk about why your brand is unique and why you are unique and how to stand out in the market. And then I did another version of this where I asked you to really ask yourself if you are truly ready to quit your 9-to-5. And we talked about what my journey was like when it was time for me to quit my 9-to-5. So this is not something new, but the setup is definitely something new because I'm usually recording in my office. But if we're gonna have real talk, I need to be real comfortable, okay? So I got some notes here, but it's really just going to be a real casual conversation where I am sharing my thoughts and my opinions, and I'm gonna share some expertise here or there. Like always, I always tend to drop a lot of gems, even when I'm having casual conversation. So I've broken down this topic into 4 parts. As I was brainstorming how to answer this question, I had to break it into 4 parts because I reflected on how I answered this question to individuals who have asked me in the past. And I wanted to see what the common themes were with all of the answers that I've given my hustle babes or my clients in the past. And so the first part that I want to talk about when it comes to determining whether or not you have to be the face of your brand is I got to talk about the pros and cons, right? But honestly, before we even get into the pros and cons, the flat out answer to the question of do you have to be the face of your brand is no, absolutely not. You do not have to be. You can choose to be if you like, but even then, it might not be the best, right? It might not be the best. I've seen brands crash because of a CEO who just didn't know how to take a back seat and not be the face. I've also seen brands crash because of a CEO who didn't know how strong their personal brand and persona was in that space, if that makes sense. So I've seen both sides of the coin. And obviously, you're looking at me right now. I have a face-forward brand, and my digital products always had a face-forward brand. And now my physical product business, HBU, also has a face-forward brand. I do intend on having a physical product brand after HBU without my face on it. And quite frankly, we have a plan to kind of detach my face from HBU in the coming year or so. But right now I am the face of it. So I can kind of tell you what the haps is and what's the benefits of it, as well as what are the downfalls of it, which brings me to the pros and cons. So in my opinion, there are 3 main pros when I think about being the face of a brand. And I'm going to share those with you because that can help you make the decision on whether or not you feel as though these pros are strong enough, or maybe the cons that I'll share with you, you feel as though those are stronger than the pros and you can decide from there. But one of the main pros is that you have a very strong personal connection with your audience. What I mean by this is being the face of your brand allows customers to connect deeper with the brand because they're connecting deeper with an actual person, and that person happens to be you, who is the CEO. So what that means is because you are sharing your personal story and you're connecting with your audience, they can now give you unfiltered feedback that you can immediately take back and start applying in your business. Not only that, but there's a certain level of trust that comes from knowing that they're seeing the CEO and interacting with the CEO per se online that honestly can elevate an experience for somebody. The second pro is the authenticity and the storytelling that comes with being the face of your brand. So like for me, for example, a lot of the things that I go through in my life, I turn into stories, and they actually help me connect with each and every one of you. They also help me provide insight to you that you use to then position me as a thought leader in the space or an expert in the space per se. And this happens with a lot of brands. So even if I owned, let's say, something that I'm super knowledgeable about is cooking, right? So let's say I owned a cookware brand or maybe seasonings or something like that. I would honestly probably still share bits and pieces of my life. And then because of that, it would allow me to then tell stories about maybe when I learned certain recipes from my grandma. And then I can also just continue to share different insight and things like that from maybe when I go to different trainings to be like a chef or whatever. And that shows you that I'm an expert in the space and a trusted source, right? So that's another pro. The third pro is that it helps you differentiate your brand very easy. No two people are the exact same. I honestly believe that you were uniquely crafted by God to be this person that you are right now on the particular mission that He set you on. And so when you decide to be the forward-facing brand, and when you decide to put your face in front of your brand, you truly decide to tell that story and to document that journey. And because your journey is unlike somebody else's, and because you are super unique, it immediately helps you differentiate your brand like this. Whereas if there were no face to the brand, now you have two logos pretty much duking it out, trying to figure out like, okay, well, what's the difference, right? Like I tell you, like Johnson & Johnson and what's the other one? There's another brand that, is it Procter & Gamble? Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble, I honestly get their products confused all the time. I sometimes don't know who owns what or, what is what because I don't really see the face of their brand anymore. However, with forward-facing brands, like let's say Miel Organics or even the shoe brand like Jessica Rich, because the CEO originally was the face of that brand and still kind of is, even though now she's in major stores, I'm able to go into a Nordstrom and say, oh my gosh, that's Jessica Rich compared to, oh my gosh, that's Steve Madden, right? I hope that makes sense. And so after hearing those pros, you're probably like, oh my goodness, that's a great thing. Being able to stand out in the market like this, also having deeper connections with your audience and your customers, and being able to turn your life into content and a marketing strategy is perfect, right? You're probably thinking, yeah, let's do it. But there are some cons that come with being the face of your brand. Now, if you want a step-by-step guide to creating your own 90-day action plan, whether you want to hit your first 6 figures, whether you finally want to cross the multi-6-figure mark, or maybe you just need help with getting your first 100 orders, I can help you out because I am going to teach you how to turn things around just like I did with the workshop I created called the Brand Bootcamp. Now, the Brand Bootcamp is a live virtual 2-day bootcamp where it is going to teach entrepreneurs who want to revive their brand, increase their visibility, and drive sales growth exactly how to do that. Because we are going to do the following. We'll audit your brand to find out where the gaps are in your content, in your marketing, in your targeting tactics, in your sales strategies. And then I am going to guide you through step by step how to improve in each one of those areas of your brand, as well as the most crucial parts of your business. And we'll even do a deep dive into the systems that you have or don't have. At the end of the day, you'll walk away with a blueprint of exactly what you need to do in order to see massive success within your business. Now, if you're watching this video, you are one of 2 types of people. You're either person 1, where you've been in business for a while and you've seen some success, but recently it seems like things are flatlining for you and maybe things are even tanking. And now you don't know what to do to bring more eyeballs to your business, or to increase your following, or to increase your sales. And I feel you. And that is exactly what the Brand Bootcamp is going to help you do. Or you're person number 2, where you haven't launched your business yet, but you watch videos like this and you sign up for workshops like the Brand Bootcamp because you want to be prepared. You know that a lack of preparation is a setup for failure. And baby, you want to prevent these big mistakes that can cause your brand and business to crumble. Whichever of these 2 people you are, the Brand Bootcamp was made specifically with you in mind. When you sign up for the Brand Bootcamp, not only will you get access to both days, you'll also get a workbook that has templated strategies in it, and you get a limited time replay as well, just in case you have to dip out or you come a little bit late. Now, if you are lucky enough and you're watching this video during the early bird part of the tickets, you are actually going to save quite a bit of money by grabbing an early bird ticket. The link is going to be in my description box. I'll also make it a pinned comment. Now, when you go to the link, you're going to see 2 types of tickets. There'll be general tickets and there'll be VIP tickets. General gets access to everything I just said, but VIP gets a little bit more, including a bonus session with me where I will answer all of your questions and even review your action plan and strategies that you created during the bootcamp. You'll also get extended access to the workshop replay, and I'm going to give you a bonus bag of brand goodies that are going to propel your brand and business for the next few months to come. If you are ready to change your brand forever, if you are ready to get unstuck, and if you are ready to finally have a blueprint of what you need to do to see more eyes on your content, more eyes on your brand, and more money in your bank account, I definitely want to see you at the Brand Bootcamp. So make sure that you click the link in my description box to sign up, okay? See you there. I'm so excited. And one of the cons is that you're under this constant pressure in a way to be perfect or to portray a certain image. Maybe your image is all about being this wild, extra person. And some days you don't feel like that. People will call you out on that and say, why the heck? Like, you're faking all the things. When in reality, we all have moods that go up and down, but your audience doesn't necessarily care, right? It comes to it's this extent of care that they have where, okay, maybe if something happens, they'll be a little bit like understanding. But if something starts to happen for an extended period of time and it pulls you out of the image that you once used to portray, your audience is going to wonder what the heck happened. And we see this with celebrities a lot, especially rappers and singers. They'll portray a certain image that wasn't them in the first place, or they'll portray a certain image and maybe life happens and they end up changing and people would drag them for it or not fully understand. Black China, for example, she's not a rapper or an artist, but she's somewhat of a celebrity, C-list or something, right? And with Black China, she made a decision that she no longer wanted to be Black China. She now wanted to be Angela White.
Honestly, the life that I was living, it was fast paced, and I just honestly kept running into like all these problems and these issues and this and that and lawsuits. And I was like, you know what? Like, I need to change. Like, I have to change my life. I can't be living like this. And I had to really just get back to myself. I kind of lost myself, honestly.
And she wanted to get all this stuff done to reverse all the things she had done. And she wanted to like get saved and all the things. And you would think that that's an amazing thing because people talk about butt shots as it being so bad for you because it's illegal. And they talked about, how she was such a fast individual and she was with everybody and all this other stuff. And so now that she's saying that she's being saved, you would think that somebody would say, girl, shout out to you. Let's clap it up. You would think that all of her people would say that. But in reality, some of the people within her audience, they said, girl, what are you doing? Because it was so out of the ordinary for her. They didn't really know how to accept that, which is super sad, right? And that brings me to the next con, which is limited scalability. When you are the face of your brand, there's a limit to how much you can grow. It sucks. It sucks because it could be difficult to step away from the day-to-day because you're the face. What does that mean? Is like, as you get older, you're not going to look the same. You may get gray hair, you may get wrinkles, so on and so forth. And maybe your skincare brand is supposed to appeal to new adults who are 19 to 29 years old or something like that. And now you are 65 years old. You don't have the same skincare routine as them, but your brand still heavily targets them. It makes it hard because if you're the face of your brand, you now have to figure out a way to either shift your target so that way you can target people who are your age, or you have to figure out a way to somehow resonate with your target as a 65-year-old and them being within their 20s, which is not super realistic. And what's going to happen when you're no longer here? If you were the face for so long and then you're no longer here, it's going to be a shock to people and they may not accept whoever the new face is, or your brand will honestly just not last. And I've seen that happen too. There was a woman, her name was the Six Figure Chick, and she was amazing. And she literally was, it's going to be like Chanel's, everybody's here one day and gone the next. But no, like her being gone was the most random, like no one knew if she was sick or anything, but she was literally here having workshops and everything one week. And the next thing you know, the next week, they were posting that she was no longer with us. And her family tried to upkeep her page and her programs for a while. But after a while, they had to just turn it into Cece's legacy. And that's because she was such a strong face of her brand. She had a very successful brand. But now that she's not here anymore, things just doesn't flow the same. It doesn't flow the same for her audience. And so it made it hard for her family to continue to scale that business. And honestly, Cece I think she was already at $1 million in revenue. She's probably at multi-millions at that point. And so it's kind of sad because the work that you're putting in right now, if you were to be gone tomorrow and leave this brand to your kids, if you're the face of your brand, it may be hard unless, I don't know, it's just going to be really, really hard, right? And that brings me to the last point, which is the last con, which is brand dependence. This is annoying. This is annoying, okay? I got to experience this when I was planning my wedding. I got married in 2022. So this was maybe, I would say it started mid 2021 all the way throughout 2022. I had a production style wedding. If you don't know what that is, look it up. But I had a production style wedding and we ended up firing 2 of our wedding planners. So I ended up being the sole wedding planner and we hired a wedding designer to do the decor. And then we ended up hiring a month of coordinator. Well, from the moment we fired the planners to all the way up until April 9th of 2022 was pretty much on me for the most part, right? Give or take the few weeks leading up to it where the month of coordinator stepped in. But I say that because there was an immense amount of pressure on me. And because of that immense amount of pressure, I knew that I needed to step away from my business. I knew that I needed to just take time to fully, one, enjoy the wedding process of somewhat, but then also to make sure that all my ducks were in a row for my wedding, because this is something that is once in a lifetime. Like I can have a workshop again next week or next month. I can literally launch a product next week or next month. I can do all of these things whenever. I can move those timelines. My wedding is kind of like, okay, well, I intend on being married to this man for the rest of my life. So this is going to be my one kind of, hoorah to make sure that it goes right. And because of that, I decided that I was going to pull myself out of certain aspects of the business and pull myself back a little bit from the brand. And I had a membership at the time called the E-Hustle Club. Oh, the fact that I'm telling y'all this is kind of crazy. But I had a membership called the E-Hustle Club, and I was told by someone that I should hire a community manager. So I went and I found a great community manager, and the members loved her. However, she ended up having to step away for a couple of reasons. And so we had to get a new community manager. This person, I guess, was not super similar to me like the first one was. And when she stepped in, it was also towards the later end of the year of 2021. So I was being more and more distant because of my wedding was getting more and more close. And when I tell you, this community manager, when she started, we had close to 300 members, like 280 something. After my wedding happened in April, and I came back to reality after my amazing honeymoon, in May, I looked at the numbers. We had less than 100 members, meaning that we had lost 60 to 70% of our members. What the heck happened? A lot of them on their survey put that they wanted to see me more. And that wasn't the first time that something like this happened. This happened as well with the agency when we had Hustle Babe Agency. People would literally pick issues simply to get to talk to me, simply so that I can get on the phone and tell them the same answers that our client support told them, or simply because they wanted to hear a certain idea from my mouth, when in reality, I was and still am the head strategist of the agency. So any design that gets finalized, literally the ideation process goes through me. To put the final stamp of approval, it goes through me. And so it's tough because from the outside looking in, your customers, they don't get it. They don't get it. Maybe a small amount will, but a lot won't, because they don't have the business that you have. They also don't have a business, period, a lot of times, right? And so with that being said, it makes it difficult to scale or step away when something called dependency develops. And that is a huge con. That is a huge, huge, huge con of being the face of your brand. So with that being said, I prompt you to think about, do these pros outweigh the cons for you? Do the cons outweigh the pros? Is there a way that you can strike a balance between the two? Obviously, despite the cons, I'm still here. I'm still the face of my brand. I've made myself the face of another brand. But I've also decided that with certain businesses like the agency, I'm not going to be the face. And with one of the product brands that I have up my sleeve that's going to come out in the next few years, I'm not going to be the face either. I currently am the face of the Brand Hustler LLC, the face of HBU, face of any of the smaller entities that are attached to that. I no longer am going to put myself as the face in spaces that don't necessarily need it. And I'm going to keep myself as the face in these particular businesses because it is super rewarding. I love the pros that I shared with you when it comes to connecting with y'all as a strategist and the entrepreneur who, is walking the path that you can see yourself in, so on and so forth. I love that. But honestly, I can't take a whole bunch of brands being the face of a whole bunch of brands. That would be too much. I am now building, even the brands I'm the face of, I am building them to one day be able to pass on to somebody else. So even with the way that I set up the Brand Hustler LLC, I refer to myself as the Brand Hustler. If you ever notice, I say, hey, I'm Chanel Q, the Brand Hustler. Why? Because someday I may not be the face of this brand anymore, but somebody else can hold the title of the Brand Hustler. Kind of like the guy who was the Kellogg's guy, right? Or even if you just think about a lot of brands, you can shift the face if you set it up correctly. So if you set it up strategically, you can shift the face. And so pretty much you see this happening all around you, but you probably don't even pay attention to it. One of the places that this happens the most is like TV shows and YouTube shows, but it also happens in big businesses as well. One of the channels that I watch on YouTube is called Food Theory, and they have other channels like Game Theory and Style Theory. And Matt Pat, who was the face for a very long time and the founder of all of those channels, he basically has like a channel empire. He decided that he wanted to retire early and have some time with his family. And then they hired a new guy to be the face. And because of the way they had it set up and the strategies that they used beforehand, it made that transition super seamless. You also see this happen with Family Feud. They've had a bunch of different hosts throughout the years. Currently, the host is Steve Harvey, but he didn't create Family Feud, nor was he always the face. However, that host transition seems to happen seamlessly because they've set it up to strategically be that way. Heck, even Aunt Viv transitioned, okay? Like Aunt Viv was not the same Aunt Viv throughout all the seasons of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, okay? But businesses literally switch CEOs all of the time. And you either don't know because you never saw the CEO, or you do know, but you got used to it. And so because I want to bring up this point because You don't have to always be the CEO of your business. And if you don't always have to be the CEO of your business, you don't always have to be the face either. Think about the huge company that you order from every single day, probably. You got a subscription to this company. Whenever you want something and you're like, oh, I don't feel like going to Walmart or Target to get it, you go to Amazon.com. And guess what? Jeff Bezos founded Amazon and was the CEO of Amazon for a while, but he is no longer the CEO. Do we still shop from Amazon? Absolutely. I was just on Amazon today looking for a timer for productivity purposes. And you are probably on Amazon today too, or maybe yesterday. You can leave a comment and let me know when is the last time you shopped on Amazon. But he's no longer the CEO. And guess what? We're okay with that. So the goal is to build a brand and a business that's sustainable. It's not to build a brand and a business to become famous or to become well known. If that's what God has for you, then so be it. But that's not the point of your brand and your business. So you really have to take that thought out of it. I find that some people want to be the face of their brands and their businesses because they want to blow up and be known as this person. Why should that matter if you're really focused on building something long lasting? If you're really focused on building something that will outlive you, that you can have literally transcend just generations to generations, if that is truly your goal, being well known as a person and as a face doesn't necessarily matter. You can still be well known by being in your community, by having certain philanthropies, certain things like that. You can still be super well known and you don't have to be the face of your brand. And I say this because everybody is not meant to be forward facing. If you don't know what your personality type is, I highly recommend you take a personality test and then you also take an Enneagram test. These two tests will read you for filth, okay? And tell you to the T what type of person it is that you are. And they will also tell you what positions in companies you'll be really good at and so on and so forth. So for me, I have an Enneagram of a 3. And for 3s, we're very pretty much we can be flexible, right? And we're very powerful, dominant, forward facing. We have slight perfectionism, like all of these things. And that honestly makes a person who is forward facing, it makes them really good because it shows you that when I show up, I want things to be really, really put together. When I show up, I'm going to bring the most energy. I'm going to put the most effort, all the things. Like there's a certain energy that comes with me that you need to have if you're going to be the CEO of your brand. If you find it stressful to pick up a camera, don't do it. Literally hire models, use influencers. Nowadays, UGC is the cheat code. Literally is the cheat code. Use that to your advantage. Don't feel as though because you can't muster up the courage to pick up a camera and record yourself doing your skincare routine that you can't have a successful brand or business. You absolutely can. It just takes you taking yourself out of the front end and being in the back end and running that thing like a well-oiled machine and hiring people to be the face, giving them the script. Heck, sometimes you don't even got to create the script. You can get somebody else to create that too. But if you're really good at making formulas, if you're really good at writing different books, creating ebooks, guides, all the things, do what you're good at and let somebody else lead from the forefront. There was a brand called J'adore Fancy. I don't know if she still exists. She was one of the, I don't want to say only, but one of the only boutiques I knew that had models at the forefront. And when she actually revealed herself, people were like, oh my goodness, I thought model A was you this whole time. And she's like, nope. And then she ended up getting more models. And now she has 3 people. Fashion Nova is owned by a guy. But there's these 3 models that I think of when I think about Fashion Nova all the time that make me buy stuff all the time. But there are these 3 models that I see every single time on their website, every single time on their ads, every single time in their content. So I say all that to say you don't have to be the face. You definitely want to make sure that you strategize how it is that you want to approach the online space. Use UGC to your advantage, use influencers to your advantage, use models to your advantage, and run the play with what you're good at. Don't feel forced to be in a space that you just know that you can't thrive at, because that is what's holding you back right now. The fact that you aren't that confident on camera, the fact that you don't have the whatever it is that you need to have to be in front of the camera, just because you don't have it doesn't mean that you can't be a successful CEO and run the play. Literally, just run the play. You can also be a successful COO, because CEOs sometimes do have to do speeches and things like that and kind of be front facing, even if you have models and things like that. But don't let anybody tell you that, oh, you're not good at recording videos, or you're not good at, doing this or that, or you don't know how to look cute in front of the camera. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Don't let that get to your head. Tell them you don't have to be, but you have the idea, you have the strategy, you have the motivation, you have the tenacity, and you got the skill set to make sure that this thing is popping, okay? So I hope that this video was really good. I honestly had more notes to cover, but I didn't even get to any of those. So maybe I'll do a part 2 where I talk about how to be the face of your brand, because that's what the rest of it was really about, but I got kind of caught up. But anyway, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you are not subscribed already, and follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Brand Hustler. I am literally at The Brand Hustler everywhere. Comment below, what was your main takeaway from this video though? I want to see if you was really listening or if you was just doing something else. Because honestly, I'm guilty. I'll watch videos on YouTube and like wash dishes and all this, and sometimes I miss stuff that they say. But comment what your biggest takeaway is down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.